You know, some stories sound like they're just made for Hollywood, almost too incredible to be true. But this one's the real deal. And it's a story that's probably going to challenge everything you think you know about what it means to be a hero during a war. I mean, really try to picture that for a second. You're in the middle of the absolute chaos of World War II. Bullets are zipping past your ears, explosions are shaking the very ground you're standing on, and you have absolutely nothing to fight back with. It sounds impossible, right? Like a total suicide mission.
So that brings up this huge question, right? Could one person, completely unarmed, right in the heart of the action, actually save that many people? Well, the answer is a definite, resounding yes.
And the man who pulled it off, his name was Desmond Doss, and his story is without a doubt one of the most remarkable tales of courage and conviction you will ever come across.
So, how does something like this even happen? Well, it all started with a deep personal conflict, a real clash between his duty to his country and, well, his duty to his own beliefs.
See, when the U.S. jumped into World War II, Desmond Doss enlisted. He wanted to serve, but he did it under a very specific title, conscientious objector. He believed in the cause, for sure, but his faith as a Seventh-day Adventist meant he had made a vow to God that he would never, ever take another person's life. And you can see how this created a huge problem. The Army's rule was simple. You're a soldier, you carry a rifle, you're prepared to kill. But Doss was adamant. He would serve, but only as a combat medic, someone who saves lives, not takes them. And let me tell you, this did not go over well. He paid a seriously heavy price for sticking to his principles. The other soldiers in his unit, they saw him as a weak link, a total liability. They mocked him, they bullied him, they even beat him up. His own commanding officers tried to have him court-martialed. Basically, they did everything they could to get him to quit.
And this was the word that followed him everywhere. He was labeled a coward, all because his idea of courage didn't involve holding a gun. He had to live with that judgment every single day.
But all that, the bullying, the doubts, the name-calling, it was all about to be put to the ultimate test on one of the most brutal battlefields in the Pacific.
So after somehow surviving all that abuse in boot camp, Doss and his unit were shipped out to one of the last and one of the bloodiest battles of the entire war, the Battle of Okinawa, specifically to a sheer cliff face that the soldiers had a grim nickname for, Hacksaw Ridge.
The fighting on Hacksaw Ridge was just a nightmare. The Americans were getting torn apart. It got so bad that the order came down, retreat, get back down the cliff. The troops pulled back, but one man didn't go. Desmond Doss stayed on top of that ridge.
All by himself, with enemy soldiers all around him, he started what seemed like an impossible mission. He would scramble through the carnage, find a wounded American, drag him to the edge of the cliff, and then, using a rope system he'd come up with, he'd lower him down to the medics below. And then he'd do it again, and again, all night long. And the whole time, through all the terror and exhaustion, he just kept repeating this one simple prayer to himself over and over again. It was like his mantra, "Lord, please help me get just one more." And he did. By the time the sun finally came up, Desmond Doss, the unarmed medic, the guy everyone had called a coward, had single-handedly saved an estimated 75 of his men. 75. What he did on that ridge didn't just save those men. It completely changed the definition of a hero, not just for his unit, but for the whole country. And do you want to hear the most incredible part of this whole thing? Many of the 75 men he saved were the very same soldiers who had bullied him, who had beaten him, who had called him a coward. In that terrifying moment, the man they thought was weak became the only person who could save them.
For what he did, for his unbelievable bravery on Hacksaw Ridge, Desmond Doss was awarded the Medal of Honor. Now, you have to understand, this isn't just any medal. This is the highest award for valor that the United States can possibly give.
And that right there, that's what makes this a landmark moment in history. He became the first conscientious objector, the first man who refused to even touch a weapon, to ever receive the nation's highest honor for courage in battle. He proved you didn't need a gun to be the bravest person on the field.
When you really look at it, his life teaches us something incredibly powerful. That real courage, true courage, isn't always about being the toughest or the most aggressive. Sometimes it's about the quiet, absolute strength it takes to stand by what you believe in, no matter what it costs you. And so his story leaves all of us with a pretty big question to think about.
It kind of forces you to look past the usual action movie idea of a hero and ask yourself, what does it truly mean to be brave?